Have you ever wondered what your dog's tail is telling you? Read on to learn how to interpret your dog's body language and tail position. For example, if your dog is horizontally wagging its tail, it's time to learn more about its mood. This behavior can indicate many things. For example, it may be alert and relaxed, or it might be displaying nervousness. On the other hand, if it's vertically wagging its tail, it's likely it's stressed and concerned. What your dog's tail tells you. There are many things a dog's tail can tell you, but how much do you really know? Dogs are not uniform in their tail placement, so studying the position and movement of the tail can help you understand how your dog feels. In addition, tail placement and movement can be a great indicator of a dog's mood, so consider their individuality when interpreting the signals they give you. If you notice a dog wagging its tail, pay attention to its position. He is relaxed and will not be aggressive if it is stretched away from its hind legs. If he has a tail held high, he is a confident, dominant dog. A loosely held tail means your dog is nervous or confused. It is also a sign he is adjusting to a new environment or meeting new people. Body language. A dog's tail tells us many things about their emotional state, from whether they are alert or scared to if they are fearful or anxious. This can be a great skill when dealing with a dog you don't know very well. While it's important to note that tail tells are not 100% reliable, you can take them at face value until you know your dog a little better. Dogs' body language is a complex system that communicates with their tails and facial expressions. It's important to learn to read the whole picture of your dog's body language because there are many nuances that can be missed otherwise. For example, a happy tail may signify happiness, while a hunched forward posture could mean submission or fear. If you want to learn more about dog body language, you can volunteer for animal rescue organizations or become a dog behavior consultant. When your dog looks at you directly, the tail can also indicate a number of things. A dog that looks at you with the whites of its eyes may be threatening or angry. You should be cautious of this behavior and respect your dog's space. If your dog doesn't fully wag his tail, it's likely that he's unhappy and wants you to leave him alone. Tail wagging. Some things remain constant despite the numerous interpretations of a dog's tail wag. Dogs raise their tails to express a range of emotions, from alertness to dominance. However, they are usually nervous, insecure, or avoiding interaction when they keep their tails down. Look for signs of high tail wagging if you're unsure about your dog's mood. Excitement is one of the most common behaviors displayed by dogs when they wag their tail. When a dog wags its tail, it usually means it's happy. However, tail wags are not the only sign of happiness. They can also indicate that your dog is anxious, nervous, or trying to communicate with you. Regardless of the cause, it's critical to understand your dog's tail wag in order to communicate with them effectively. Begin by observing how your dog's tail wag is positioned if you want to understand it better. Keep an eye on its location and speed. If it's slow, the dog is probably nervous or stressed, and you probably don't want to interact with that dog. It's also important to understand your dog's other body language and facial expressions. Tail position. You might have wondered what your dog's tail was saying. Some dogs naturally hold their tail straight back, whereas others curl it toward their head. The position of the tail reflects the dog's overall emotional state. The tail position can range from relaxed and content to anxious and tense. To learn more, examine your dog's tail position. Here are some of the most common tail positions to be on the lookout for. Some dogs keep their tails still while others move their tips. This movement indicates that the dog is content, whereas others indicate that the dog is anxious or upset. While the tail position is a good indicator of your dog's emotional state, it should not be relied on solely. Some dogs will send mixed signals and act in ways that contradict your expectations. Tails are just one of many body language indicators to look for, so keep an eye out for other aspects of your dog's behavior as well. Relaxed dog. A dog's tail position also reflects a dog's emotional state. A dog with a high tail is usually assertive, while one that is tucked between its legs is likely to be stressed. Depending on the breed, a dog with a relaxed tail is held at a neutral position. In addition to tail height, relaxed dogs hold their tails in a neutral position during playtime. While your pet may hold his tail low and erect when he is relaxed, it may hold it at a lower level during interactions and kisses. The mouth of a relaxed dog is usually open, while a stressed dog will show signs of panting and no facial tension. A relaxed dog may be licking the ground in anticipation of a treat, while a stressed dog might keep its mouth shut or pull its lips back at the corners. Dogs that roll onto their back may also be stressed, and they may urinate as appeasement. To find out whether a dog is truly relaxed, look for a few of the following characteristics. Wagging tail. A dog's wagging tail can mean several different things, from a simple sign of happiness to a warning sign of aggression. Tail wags are one of the most effective methods of communication in the canine kingdom. If you're not sure what your dog is trying to communicate, pay attention to the position of its tail and you'll soon learn how to read this body language. If you notice your dog wagging its tail at the wrong times, it might be trying to tell you something. It could be about to react to something, so restrain your leash or crate it. If the wagging tail does not indicate anger, it may be time to seek professional help. If you encounter an aggressive dog, it's best to stay away from it until it calms down and shows affection. In order to understand what a wagging tail means, you need to understand the direction it's facing. The tail will wag primarily to the right if you're facing your dog's viewing direction. Similarly, the wagging tail will wag mostly to the left if it's facing your direction. A wagging tail is a sign of happiness and joy if it's facing you. Curly tails. Curly tails in dogs are not necessarily a sign of health problems, though they may cause discomfort. Although a curled tail is a genetic characteristic of some breeds, they rarely cause health problems. However, curly tails can also be a sign of another ailment, such as scoliosis. If you notice that your dog's tail is curved, you should visit a vet for a proper diagnosis. Dog breeds that have a curly tail are typically Spitz-type dogs. Pugs and bulldogs both have curled tails, which are due to a condition called hemivertebrae. Pugs and bulldogs have curly tails, but not all. It's not uncommon for a dog to have a tail that curls backwards. But it should be kept out of your dog's face. Although there are more than 300 breeds of dogs, curly tails are present in only a few. These unique traits are both adorable and functional. In addition, curly tails may improve dog-to-dog communication. However, you should be aware of potential health risks associated with a curly tail. So, how can you tell if your dog has a curly tail? Here are some tips for choosing a dog with a curly tail. Limp tail. A limp tail is an uncomfortable condition for a dog, but it's not necessarily a sign of something serious. Your dog may just be overexerting, or he might be a victim of arthritis or another condition. In either case, you should consult a veterinarian for a diagnosis. If your dog has a limp tail, here are some things to watch out for. A drooping tail is a sign that your dog is suffering from a spinal problem, a fracture, or something else. A limp tail may cause a dog to cry or be unable to get up from a comfortable position. It may also lead your dog to lose its appetite. Therefore, it may be best to consult a veterinarian as soon as possible. A limp tail should be checked by a veterinarian, especially if it is not the result of a fracture. A limber tail can be a symptom of a muscle injury, but it's not a true fracture. Instead, this syndrome is caused by overexertion or muscle injury. Janet Stice, an associate professor at Auburn University's College of Veterinary Medicine, co-authored a study in 1999 that identified damaged coccygeal muscles in the tail base. These muscles are the equivalent of a sprain and are often responsible for this problem. Slow wag. Despite what you may think, your dog's tail can actually tell you a lot about your dog's mood and emotional state. Learn how to read the different types of wags to interpret your dog's emotions. Here's a guide to the different kinds of tail wags. It's also a good idea to understand when your dog is happy or sad by the speed and breadth of the tail sweep. Fast wagging can also indicate agitation and excitement in dogs. If your dog is happy and eager to meet new people, he might wag his tail quickly. On the other hand, if he's stressed, his tail might wag slowly, indicating caution and anxiety. A slow wag can also indicate that a dog is sleepy. It could also be a sign of aggressive behavior towards strangers or a fear of the unknown. Another sign of aggression is a dog with a high tail. The dog is confused and nervous if it's high and carried at half-mast. Similarly, a tail carried at a low level may signal fear or submission. Likewise, a dog with a tucked tail is probably insecure. A dog with a high tail may not approach strangers or other dogs. Stiff tail. Your dog's stiff tail is a way to communicate with it. If it's raised up, it's probably confused. A dog with a stiff tail is not necessarily scared but is usually confused and may also show other behavioral signs like tilted head and perky ears. When a dog is confused, it's not necessarily angry, but it may also become angry once it has a better understanding of what you're trying to communicate. So never ignore a stiff tail, especially if other nervous behaviors accompany it. A stiff tail could be a sign of intense concentration or caution. If your dog suddenly stops wagging its tail, you may assume that it's just concentrating or saying hello. In reality, a stiff tail may also be a sign of stress, or your dog may be trying to say something offensive. If you notice a stiff tail, make sure to correct it before it gets out of control. Lowered tail. Have you ever wondered why the lowered tail of your dog is so important? Tails communicate a lot about a dog's state of mind, and the lowered position can mean several things. Generally, a dog with a high tail is either excited, fearful, or submissive. A lowered tail indicates that your dog is relaxed but not necessarily tired. It may also mean your dog is in pain or is trying to avoid another dog. Using the tail as a communication tool and balancing device is extremely beneficial for dogs. Tails counterbalance frontal body weight and aid in walking down narrow walkways. When a dog is happy, it will wag its tail, which shows a strong emotional state. Conversely, a lowered tail can indicate shame or fright. If you notice that your dog is not wagging its tail, a problem may lie beneath the surface. Several causes can contribute to the lowered tail of your dog. The most common cause is overexertion. Other factors include climate changes, improper crate size, and long crate rest. Overuse of the tail may also be a cause. A veterinarian can evaluate your dog's symptoms to determine if it is something more serious. If your dog is overactive, make sure you give them frequent stretch breaks. Different tail wags. Depending on the context, a dog's tail wags can have many meanings. It could mean anything from a friendly hug to a dog attack. Understanding your dog's body language is key in interpreting different tail wags. The following guide explains the different types of wags your dog makes and how to interpret them. A friendly wag, an aggressive wag, and everything in between. Wags may be the first and most common way dogs communicate. A dog that wags its tail is generally happy, but a wagging tail could also mean aggression, fear, or insecurity. Wags can also indicate aggression, so always be cautious of approaching an unknown dog. Make sure to ask the owner's permission before petting any dog. Even when the owner isn't around, the tail wag is a signal that something isn't quite right. If you can understand your dog's tail wagging pattern, you can better understand the different feelings and thoughts that your dog is communicating to you. For example, a dog that wags his tail to the right side is relaxed, while a wagging tail to the left indicates stress or anxiety. If you don't understand these messages, consider training your dog to communicate to you in this way.